Go NTD on 212. Com check.
DPS, go. Inco, go. PUS, go. Surgeon, go. Booster, go. Copy that. We have a go from you guys.
This is Talking Sound.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome once again to another episode of the Talking Sound Podcast, the only podcast on the internet where negative 10 is a number to be desired. Coming at you live, as always, right here from the throbbing heart of rock and roll that is Austin, Texas. And right now, it is the throbbing heart of rock and roll that is South by Southwest.
Right.
We actually have our first in-studio guest for South by Southwest, Mystery Loves Company, out of Houston, Texas. How you guys doing?
We're good. Thanks for having us.
Fantastic. So, let's start off with what brought you to South by Southwest and where y'all have played since you've been here, and then we'll do a little bit of backtracking.
We just played Guero's South by South Congress, which is the third year we've played it. So that brought us in this weekend. Maddie and I played Victory Grill last weekend.
All right.
And we still have one more show next week. Tomorrow night.
Tomorrow, yeah.
Yeah, tomorrow.
South by Cherry Sunday.
Yes.
Yeah, Cherrywood.
And I can't wait to go there, actually. My wife goes there frequently to write.
Awesome.
And, Cherrywood's a great, great location. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Whenever Jeremy told me in Houston that, y'all were going to be playing there, I was like, I know exactly where that's at. I got to go to that.
Yeah.
So, as everybody, of course, knows on the show, I've known Jeremy for a little while. We've done quite a few episodes together, and he was the one that brought y'all to my attention, actually, through playing with y'all, everything else. Let's kind of go around the table, get everybody familiar, tell everybody your name and what you play in the band.
Starting with me.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you're the one.
I'm Carlos. I play guitar and sing.
Go ahead.
Wow. I'm Alana, and I play clarinet, and I beatbox sometimes. Occasionally. I try.
I'm Jeremy. I play bass in addition to audio engineering that we've done in the past. But I play bass.
I'm Maddie, and I play the cello and sing.
Fantastic. Now, what kind of music, what would you describe as Mystery Loves Company?
We say chamber rock.
Okay.
And a couple of years ago, when the three of us were in the car on a 2-week tour, sorry.
Not that man.
The taller chair.
Totally accidental.
We didn't have the kids seat in the car.
It's all right.
No,
all
dude
right.
had to stay back.
Yeah.
But anyway, we were on a tour that we put together ourselves. It was about 2 weeks, and at this point, when we were starting to drive around the country, we were like, we should probably have a description, a way to describe ourselves and a genre that we think we fit in. And so
While we're on tour.
It's more like people kept asking us what our genre was, and we had
We
to
were
like have something to tell them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a hard question, even as an artist or musician either, like, what's your style? What do you do? It's like, I don't know, I just do what I do, man. Like,
no one's trying to fit into a genre.
Yeah.
But we decided on chamber rock because we have some chamber instruments in the band, and then even if it's not clarinet, then we'll have an addition to clarinet, we'll have viola, other kind of chamber instruments like that. So we
take a chamber approach to how we play and write anyway. So
Now, what do you mean by that for our listeners out there and viewers that may not know what you're talking about?
I think we play rock music to begin with.
At the core,
At the core, it's rock music, but we really kind of allow for each instrument to bring in its sort of background and let that become part of the sound. And so whenever you're seeing us, you're just hearing uniquely what that lineup has to offer and what those people have to offer. And I think, I don't know, we tend to write in a way to just really give each other space and like work a lot more as a sort of chamber type of ensemble than a rock band in a way, even though we're still writing rock songs. So.
Okay.
I think the energy feeds off of each other from playing from orchestral stuff that I'm used to that, that you don't necessarily have to have a conductor, so everybody's looking at each other, and so
Yeah.
I know some shows kind of give a cue and
Right.
Well, and that's really the big part about chamber music is that there
Right.
is no conductor.
Exactly.
Like everybody's
Right.
kind of on their own, and you do have to, because I mean, the conductor's job is to interpret the piece of music, you know, and kind of be the conduit between the audience and the piece of music and the musicians.
And to keep everyone together.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
We have to keep ourselves together and each
Yeah,
other together.
It's an interesting dynamic to mix the two together. What actually, I mean, of course, that grew organically, but is it something that, as it started to grow, that y'all really just fostered and, you know, kept happening? Or
Yeah, I mean, I guess
I don't know if it was really on purpose.
Yeah, and then when we came across chamber rock, we weren't like, I mean,
That wasn't like a yeah moment.
Yeah. We were just like, okay,
That's
it's
the best
gonna
we
have to
can
work.
do.
Yeah, and then we didn't start off saying when we met each other, let's start a chamber rock band. Yeah, it did kind of just happen that way.
It was just
pretty
sort of a
organic.
description that fit, and
Yeah.
and we've stayed this, you know, the same sort of from the beginning. So
all right.
and it's still also just broad enough
Right.
for us to say it's gonna fit what we're doing moving
For the future,
forward.
yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, you guys have been together for obviously 3 years, at least in
least
some
3
form
years,
or
yeah.
fashion.
In some form of
Yeah.
fashion.
You know, so in that time, what's your progression been? You know, I mean, how many incarnations have y'all had?
Well, I don't know if we can really even use the word incarnation. Because
We've
we're
had
pretty
a few.
amorphous.
I mean,
Yeah.
So Maddie and I started playing as a duo, and then pretty soon after that, we started just writing stuff that just needed more instruments, and we started looking at that point specifically for a clarinet if we could find one.
Yeah.
And we found this guy just at an event, and he was just like warming up with his clarinet, and we're like, "Here's our card, you know." Come find us, let's jam. And he probably thought like we really liked his scales or something.
Right. I was playing major scales, warming up for a show, and he's like, "Oh my god, a clarinetist!"
But he just had a clarinet, so he was like in.
And I love
Carlos
it.
is like, what's your name? You're in the band.
You weren't even there to see my show. You were
I
there to
wasn't
see a
there.
poetry show, and it wasn't.
And I
there.
also like the first question I asked him. You said something about the universe, and I was like,
yeah.
"Okay, let's jam." Let's
Sounds
definitely
right.
jam
Yeah.
because I was just thinking about the universe.
We were
Like
just talking
coincidence.
about how
Like-
the first time Jeremy ever played with us was a year ago, so he's only been with the band for 1 year.
We're having our anniversary
Little baby.
here tonight.
Fantastic.
had donuts just
Fantastic.
before
Just
We're
celebrate.
having our band diversity. You can edit that out if it doesn't sound.
No,
that's cool.
it rolls off the tongue slightly.
It rolls clumsily off the tongue.
It like rolls your tongue
Yeah.
together.
We can make it a shizzle word.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
We know about rolling. We wrote a song called "Roll On."
But we started really growing. It's okay, we heard it. We'll just let it go. We started really growing. Then Maddie and I, realized that we wanted to just play a whole lot more than we could kind of keep a big group together in this sort of indie rock atmosphere where like people don't get paid very easily and that kind of stuff. So then we scaled back a bit and we really worked on developing a duo show that like had real duo songs and all that kind of stuff that we could take on the road and that could be something viable. And then the sort of band started growing again on its own. And so, I mean, I guess I'll say that right now there are probably two versions of this. There's either a band, which can have multiple kind of arrangements or people in it, depending on who's available. And there's a duo aspect of Mr. Lowe's company, and it just kind of depends on what we're doing.
All right. And with that in mind, how do you go about composing your music? How do you go about writing? Everybody has a different process. Is it a words first situation, or is it, especially with your backgrounds, instrumentation and composition first situation?
Shall we each answer separately?
Yeah,
absolutely.
So
Because I'm sure everybody writes songs in the group. So
I'm a riff person, and I usually have a hard time writing even much more than that. Sometimes I can write a whole song. Mostly I'll just like bring a riff to someone, usually Carlos, and just say, I really want this to be a song. I don't know what to do. And just kind of we'll start to work together on it. But
okay,
that's how I do it.
All right.
And I'll be like, I want it to be a song too because it sounds awesome.
Now, where do you draw your inspiration from? What are most like? Is it story-centric type of writing that y'all have? Or?
I think it's all different.
I think
for
it
everyone.
always
Yeah,
depends.
again,
Yes.
it's a one at a time.
Okay.
Yeah, it always depends, and I think we each probably have tendencies, but
And probably somewhat similar.
yeah, I mean, I think you two are very similar.
Yeah.
In that you kind of start with riffs. I used to always start with words, so I'm the
Yeah.
one that comes from the words. But now it's become kind of weird. Like I'll be working on a riff, and if it makes me want to sing, and like whatever word fits there, like I'll write something around that. I don't know. It seems like a backwards way, but a lot of times it comes from that.
Yeah, well, that's where most of mine, whenever I wrote acoustic music, things like that on the regular, that's where it would come from. I'd be sitting around watching TV, just noodling around with chords on the guitar, and something would strike, and then of course, like just words start happening.
And I think ultimately, if it leads to something that you think it's worth singing about or writing about, then that's what inspires us in that moment. And it can be kind of an idea about family, or it can be something about politics or social things. But if it really takes you to a place where you're like, this is worth exploring, then that's, to me, where inspiration strikes.
Fantastic. Now, myself, and it's taken me a long time to get to this point. I love asking people because it took me a long time to get to where I defined the difference between artist and musician. Like you were saying earlier, you tend to be willing to go out and starve and just do what you're doing and do what you do and do it well. That to me is the true definition of artist. Artists will continue to, like myself, I've never sold a single piece of music I've made. It's never happened. I have like 30 plus hours of electronic music online. I will keep making it, whether I sell it or not, whether I get signed or not. I will keep making
You
it.
just have to do it.
Yeah. I mean, it's there. Like, it's a mountain that I have to climb, and there's another mountain after I'm out of the valley, Like, there's always something surmountable there. So, and for me, it became, especially once I started meeting more true musicians who are out truly plying their trade. On the regular, they'd be out playing jazz music on a Wednesday, 80s rock on a Friday night, teaching guitar, teaching their instrument, stuff like that. So as a group, where do you define yourselves? Where do you define yourselves individually? As a group, do you define yourselves as artists or musicians? And individually, do you define yourself as an artist or musician?
It's an interesting question to
I'm
ask.
still trying to catch up on which one is which. So somebody else take it. Just to make sure.
Musician is someone who plays music, but they aren't necessarily a creator or something, or is that?
Yeah. I mean, they could create, but necessarily there are people who are out plying their trade. They're tradesmen. That's all that they're doing is playing music. Typically, they're either out.
So that's the artist.
The artist is the person that's making music, whether they get paid for it or not.
So I would say the artist is the one with the music in their soul, and they have to let it out. The musician is the one who likes playing music.
Yes. Yeah. That's an easy way to define it. Yes.
Sure. I mean, I think
backing person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think as a group, it's easy. As a group, I would put us in the artist category because we're not. I mean, we've defined it from the very beginning. We're not interested in playing cover gigs or like just playing music and finding out what kind of music we have to play to get the gigs. You know? So from the beginning, we've been very uncompromising about we're gonna play what we're creating. If there's an outlet for that, we're gonna find it.
Yes.
But it's about what we're creating. It's not about just kind of being able to be out there and play music.
Yeah.
Now, I think then individually, I think we all have things that we do that keep us sharp as musicians and keep us sort of working on it. I don't know. I mean, you all have
because I don't write as much or at all for the band, so I see myself a little bit more as a musician. But going back to the chamber idea, I still have a place as an artist to bring whatever part of my part into everybody else's part. Make
and of course, you're writing your own parts. No
one
one writes your bass parts.
So it's still being an artist, no matter what. So.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And where do you fall in it?
I don't actually have a clear-cut answer for that.
Yeah.
Personally, in my individualistic answer, I would say that I am not an artist. I do not know, though, if that's really true for me.
Okay.
I've never imagined myself as a musician, like a permanent, like this is what I want to do. This is what I have to do. I have to create music. But I always create music. So I feel like that's a philosophical debate that I constantly have.
Yeah.
I definitely know that music for me is something that will always be in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't really escape that. So I guess in that sense, I am an artist. But within the band, I think I find myself as an artist. I think with the band, I'm inspired to create and inspired to feel like I should. So, I mean, and that also somewhat pairs down to how I write and how I've written for the band. For me, when I write, I find something in life that I find remarkable, whether it's great, bad, interesting, and then I try and recreate that musically, whether that be in a riff or whether that be in a line, like words or something, and then I either take that piece and bring it to the band, or I take maybe a whole song. Musically, I very rarely write words.
Okay.
I'm not into words, but for me, it's very much instruments.
Well, with your beatboxing, is it more of an emotional thing, or is it more of a mathematical approach that you have?
I have just an obsession with rhythm. I would not attribute that to an emotional thing. I just have an
I don't think
obsession with rhythm.
mathematical
I
and
had
Alana
to take
go
it
in
a
the
step
same
further.
line ever either.
Really?
I mean, in a good, maybe like the number pi. Like as mathematical as
I
you
love
get.
that.
Like you
That's
just
pretty
never know
consistent.
what the next number is. And that's like one of the coolest things about this guy. Because
Well,
like
that's just you. From my perspective, I'm very mathematical. Just people don't get it.
alright, so like when we started playing, we'd be jamming on something and we would say, "That's a great line. Play that again." And he would say, "Which one?" Because he just like would
I
have no clue
idea.
what came out of his clarinet.
Yeah.
You know? But he has just like has this great ability. At the same time, where like he couldn't write a sort of a melody and remember it, and we started like literally taping him
Yep.
and saying, going back,
Oh,
rewind
yeah,
it,
Yeah.
and say, "Play
Well,
that again."
It's funny that you say that, because
Yeah.
like that was actually, to go on to a totally different style of music, that was Dimebag Darrell's approach. With Pantera, because they would literally be rehearsing for so many hours on end, and people would be like, "Dude, that was awesome. What was that?" He's like, "I have no idea."
Yeah.
And literally he would start recording every single rehearsal so that he could go back like football footage and
Right.
listen
Right.
to it.
Right.
And
But
I
then he just has this amazing ability to kind of go on forever and
Just like
continue
Pi.
to make lines.
Just
right?
like
Yeah.
pi.
Yeah.
like
I am
pi.
very pi.
yeah.
I'm very pi.
So that's your mathematical side. It's pi.
Musically, I would agree. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Great.
maybe a third cacategory, there's musician, artist, but then maybe kind of a combination of those is just the professional
Or
Yeah.
comedian.
or comedian. Maybe that's the fourth, 3.5. But the professional that would
Still,
go back.
you still don't fit in that one.
I'm thinking like a sports person, or
Yeah.
they sit and watch tape.
Yep.
So we have to go
The-
through
the
like right now
analyst.
listening to takes of the concert that we played, and you have to figure out, okay, I want this
Yep.
take here, I want this take here, and that's just I don't know, that's something that comes with the job, I guess. But
Yeah.
it's not a job,
No.
but it's just being a professional.
Well, and it's wanting to know how you can better yourself. Even as an artist or a musician, what can I do? What can I repeat that people obviously liked? I myself mixed and worked specifically with jam bands for a long time, and that was a lot of what I loved, was the fact of there was an improvisational nature that, even though it was the same song, the same stage the next night, it would be 8 minutes instead of 5.
Right.
And there was even as the sound guy, like you their songs, where they're going, and you can hear that one, kind of dissonant chord that somebody hits and go, "Oh, I know where they're going with that." And you start like bringing in your delays, things like that, kind of anticipating where they're going. So, and that takes a certain amount of synergy.
Right.
Where do y'all lie with synergy? How does that play into, as a chamber music group? I mean, of course, synergy plays a large part of it, because you have to feel, if somebody's changing tempo and possibly why they're changing tempo, So how does that blend into what y'all do, not just live, but in your arrangement and your composition? Do you leave room for that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we'll have, for example, we'll have jams that they're not always the same length, or they're very different in style from night to night.
Right.
And I think inherently our songs have things that are always going to be the same. You know, they're the things that we talk through with each other, and we're like, okay, well, since you just played that line and it was just the most heartbreaking thing that anybody's ever heard, it has to be that way forever.
Right. It usually goes that direction where we'll go with this section of this song, or most of this song is going to be improvised, and we start out thinking that that's what the song is going to be like. This is improvised every time, but then one of the times that somebody improvises something, near him, but then sometimes you'll hear something that you're like, it's got to be that every time. Now this is not improvised anymore. That line that you did, that's part of the song now. So that's kind of what happens.
I would say that we still we very much prescribe improvisational time into the songs and into the sets, and it's very deliberate.
There's still a purposefully placed space.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
And so, like, you know, if you were to watch 2 of our shows 2 nights in a row, there are going to be some things that you can tell are very deliberately done, you know, in a certain way, and are always going to be done in that way. And then there's a space sort of either right before or right after that changes, and it makes it special for that night, you know.
Yeah.
So and that keeps it fresh for us too,
Right.
just to, you know, continue to play the same songs and still get kind of a freshness out of them.
Yeah.
I really like how you guys decide, and we decide to put the 2 songs together. You know, certain songs go well together. So when we have the set list that Carlos and Maddie make, we get in and it says this song plus this song.
Yeah.
So it's that combination of 2 songs, and it allows for some play. And
Yeah,
maybe an outro.
Yeah,
The one we ended on tonight had an
to
outro and
weave
so
the
forth,
2
so.
together musically and everything
And
else.
there's a part too that we love having just new people play with us.
Right.
Like whenever somebody like can't play a gig and we have to find a backup, we often, and it was the case tonight,
Yeah.
we will have, when we find somebody that we've never played with, we will send them music and we will not rehearse with them. And tonight was a little bit by necessity.
Yeah.
But
what happened tonight? Like, tell us the story.
Our drummer just couldn't make the trip to Austin. And so we had another drummer that was already on another band in the lineup tonight. And,
Okay.
and it's somebody we know. It's somebody that kind of knows our music. And so he played our set tonight. And so we sent him music, but at the same time, like, not giving him specific direction on where we're going and not holding practices. When we have those opportunities, it really helps us see or hear the songs in a completely different way, because you're hearing somebody else's
whole new
interpretation.
perspective.
Yeah.
And so you're on the stage, you're on the set, and you're having to change your interpretation of the song so that it's musical and it's not just, you know, 4 people who are playing one thing and one person who's playing it differently, or that kind of thing. So, I mean, I think we like having even that type of experience where there's still going to be that same solo is going to be that solo, but it's going to be different because of the new person that you put in there and that new...
Right.
Sure.
I would say with that regard, and in general, I think for us, whether there's improvisation or not, there's always an incredible amount of necessity for that synergy. I think we very much focus on playing off of each other.
Yeah.
And so when we have new people who we've never played with, it gives us a different perspective on the synergy itself, as well as our music, which gives us a new idea. I mean, a lot of times when I play with a different drummer or a different player or whatever it is, I find different inspiration for lines. Like I write something different a lot of times.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that's useful in general for me. Like, we love collaboration. I think that's something that's really useful in music in general. I think a lot of people should do that.
Yeah. Well, and I found it very interesting, even the fact that you welcomed another musician's interpretation of your music.
Sure.
That to me rings composer, number one. Because there aren't too many people who are interested in hearing somebody's interpretation of their own personal music that they've written. This is how I wrote the piece of music. You need to. Why aren't you playing it the way it was on the tape that we sent you, man? And you know, and that's the typical rock and roll mentality of like, no, man, this is the beautiful thing that we made. Why are you doing something other than what the hell we sent you? So just the fact that you actually welcome that is a totally different flipped mentality on it. As someone who's worked with musicians for years.
Music is ideas, and if you box an idea, that's all you're ever gonna get. But if you just kind of set it free, and it can become so many things. And so I think, like, even Jeremy, you've been playing with us for a year, but you see how songs grow.
Right.
And I mean, we even don't entirely say the songs are written until we've played them on stage a lot. And we see,
and
like, even how the audience interacts
and
with
we
them.
try not to, if we have a recording project coming up, we're like, okay, some of this stuff is really new. By the time it gets recorded, is it going to be really the song that it's going to eventually be? We really need to, like, let it kind of get played a long time, right? And see the way we react to it differently on stage with different musicians and just different, accidents that happen on stage, or whatever. And so we're like, we want this to be the version that we love, that really kind of stands the test of time before we try to record it, because it changes a lot.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, the interesting thing is that sometimes, and I would say even frequently, these songs change and become purposeful based on mistakes.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that, to me, like I said, just it rings of improvisation, and it rings of, just jam band and people who love to compose, because composers enjoy the little nuances, the little mistakes that happen.
Yeah, and at the same time, like, I don't want to give people the sort of the idea that we're sort of kind of out there on the stage just seeing if, like, how a song comes out.
Yeah. I mean, you're not experimenting with your audience. You're not putting things in their Kool-Aid while they're in the show,
Well, and there's certainly sort of that type of songwriting, which there's nothing wrong with that, but it's not what we're doing.
It's just not
Because
what
I
we're
get
doing.
many messages from you that says, I love this part. No, I don't love this part. No, I do. No, I did love that part. I know. And so it goes back and forth. Played that part. No, it still goes.
Is it all about the same part?
It is calculated.
So like, I will say that there's a period where we're writing, and we're very purposefully writing, and we're really trying to sort of disseminate and communicate an idea within the group. But then I think we've learned to just, once we sort of have the song and people have the idea and the feel of the song, you let it go. And then you see what it becomes. And because I think we've learned that if you just kind of cage it too early, then it reached its full potential, and that's all it's ever going to be, So it's like, we say it's like kids, just like these songs, you let them go and you see where they go. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Some are good.
Yeah.
Can't force them to
Just
be
like
yeah,
kids.
you can't make them walk. They'll walk when they're ready to walk.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, you just got to make sure they don't, walk into traffic.
Yeah, you got to put the infrastructure there for them to know how to walk.
But in musical terms, that's not always a bad thing. So they're better than kids.
I would say musically and in life, I sometimes just walk into traffic.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you were mentioning recording and being in the studio. Y'all actually just did some great stuff over at Lucky Run Studios here recently, where we visited, all that kind of stuff. How was that experience for y'all, and how often do y'all actually go into the studio for experiences like that?
It hasn't been that frequent. We have
the live recording.
Yeah.
This is the second one, really.
2 studio albums, 2 live recordings.
Okay.
And yeah.
So this will be the second one that's out.
It
hasn't come out yet.
Okay.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. But even in some ways, this live recording and the last studio album that we did also at Lucky Run were the same in the sense that we recorded the studio album live. All the instruments, we just played them straight through at the same time.
I love it.
And so there was like, you couldn't take, my playing of the first take that we did and Alana's of the second and Terrence the kit player of the third, because we were playing off of each other, so it just all had to be from the same thing. So I don't know, I just wanted to remark
and that meant, of course, that sometimes we had multiple takes for something, but we're still, when you hear our studio album, it is just one straight take of all the instruments, and just what happened then. And I think because of that, because even our studio work is that way, we just knew we had to start doing more live stuff. Yeah. And so Jeremy helped us put this last one together, and we really created kind of a house concert feel inside of the studio. Right. And recorded a whole album with an audience there, which will be coming out soon.
Fantastic. And when is the release date for that? Do y'all have a potential release date yet? Are you looking at
It
anything?
depends on how quickly I mix it. And
Okay.
It's in these guys' hands.
Yeah.
Because he recorded it and mixed the first one.
Right,
and I
so
did
we
the
did-
mastering,
Okay.
We did the first live recording at Sugar Hill where I work as
Yeah.
an audio engineer. And I mixed that one and recorded that one.
Great.
And then he mastered it. This one we recorded at Lucky
Lucky
Run,
Run.
which he's mixing and I'm mastering.
All right.
That synergy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we're releasing them one at a time.
And absolutely, especially with an established studio like Sugar Hill, there's definitely a vibe and a feel to the way that things come out of there.
Sure.
I went there years and years ago. I had a friend of mine that worked there. And yeah, it was
a wonderful place.
It's a great, magical place, and it's amazing. And it's interesting because Jeremy knows me myself as a musician. I am the same way. Even with my electronic music, if I have a 20-minute piece, it will be a 20-minute take. I'm not going to do punch recording.
Right.
I don't do that. To me, it drains a lot of the feel out of it. To me, there's a place for that.
Right.
In a lot of rock and roll and a lot of hip hop, everything else, the punch recording. But there are certain things that I truly feel without the synergy of people playing together at the same time, there's just something that's lacking.
And it's not like we're, just trying to be real, like such purists and we're anti using the technology that's available. But it is, there is sort of a line that you cross and you kind of know when you've crossed it where you start taking away the beauty of the real performance.
Well, exactly.
And so the closer you are to that,
and there are just certain genres of music. Like you're not going to see a whole lot of punch recording and things like that in bluegrass.
Sure.
You're going to see it kind of the same way, where everybody's in the room together, and because we're playing off each other, and we're going to improv off each other. It's just the format of the music, and as chamber musicians, that's what you're used to. That's where you're comfortable, and that's where the magic comes from for you.
And also the audience is a part of it.
Oh God,
that's
yeah.
the other part.
You guys were talking about
And
that,
thankfully, Lucky Run and Sugar Hill both are big enough that we could fit everyone
A good
together
crowd of
and
people.
an audience.
That's great.
But I would say this punch record thing in the music industry has really reduced the size of studios.
Oh yeah.
Not a lot of studios can actually fit a full band to play live with audience. So there's not a lot of
Well,
choices
and you've
there.
literally gotten to the point technologically, especially with that, you can do a lot of things in a 10 by 10 room.
Yeah.
And it's amazing, but at the same time, it kind of does take away from some of that,
Right.
It's kind of like I'm a big Rush fan. And if you listen to the albums where they're in the studio together and the albums where, stuff was recorded separately,
You can hear it.
and you can definitely hear those moments where it's like, they just weren't hanging out, man.
Yeah.
Like they just literally were not hanging out before they recorded this,
Right.
And you can hear that translation. So the fact that y'all actually follow that process is something very near and dear to my heart. And I love that. I love the live recording aspect of it. Now, as far as shows, I guess, how do you approach booking? How do you go about finding places to play? Y'all have said that y'all have done little mini tours yourself, stuff like that. One of the things we're all about on this show is sharing that kind of knowledge. Somebody shared it with y'all at some point, the magic secret of how to get a gig. So quite obviously you're not going to just go out and play every shill dive that there is, because you're not an acoustic cover act like I was.
Not everyone.
Like, hey,
food
with
and some drink.
with my
They'll be
acoustic
there.
guitar and my buddy's upright bass, as long as we could fit an acoustic guitar and an upright bass, we'd go play. So, the difference between that and what you're doing is obvious. So, what kind of vibe are you looking for in a venue? What kind of place do you enjoy playing?
I'll say, okay, for the band, I think we have maybe some criteria of what kind of shows we're trying to look for. We're potentially trying to look for shows that can be more of a series of shows rather than just a one-off, and that's the one time we played it there. With the exception, of course, of if you're playing for kind of a big crowd and the type of crowd that's inherently there for the music and that kind of thing. So we're a little pickier. As a duo, Maddie and I are not as picky, and we pretty much will play anything. I mean, if we just start listing the things we've played, you'd probably be surprised. But Maddie and I just kind of have a goal to just perform in front of as many audiences, whether that's 2 people, whether that's 50, as possible. Yeah. And that's part of our, that's part of us, like, putting what we're doing out there and testing these songs and testing ourselves and testing our performance ability and our ability to connect, even in the worst of circumstances. And so there's very little that we turn down. Now, I'll say that we'll turn down a second show if it's not the right fit.
I've been turned down for the second show.
And that happens plenty for us too. But Maddie, I don't know. Maddie and I are just not that picky. We play a lot. We're playing these songs 2 to 3 times a week, every week.
That's fantastic.
And so, it's just wherever people want to listen to them, we tend to be there.
What are some of the normal haunts up around the Houston area and up around the Austin area where people get to hear the music of Mystery Loves Company?
In Houston, we have a weekly gig at Natachi's in Midtown. Natachi's Supper and Punch. They have great food and drinks there, and a little corner stage. And it's a very well-established restaurant. And we play there every Thursday, and we feature a different artist. We featured both Alana and Jeremy.
Nice.
Yeah.
Different nights, and then in Austin, we played at Ware's a few years in a row, and we play at Lucky Lounge, and we play at Cherrywood.
Okay.
And Cherrywood and Lucky Lounge, I'd say we play every 3 to 4 months or something like that.
That's a decent rotation for the distance that is from Houston.
Yeah.
So it's a Texas minute away, couple hours.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely.
We also have the Axelrad.
Oh yeah.
So we Axelrad Beer Garden is a kind of a newer venue in Houston, but we've been playing there regularly, about monthly, with the full band.
Wow, that's great.
And I don't know. I'd say the band plays in Houston 2 to 3 times a month.
The full band, yeah.
And that varies where that is.
Well, fantastic. I love hearing about bands that are good that are busy.
Yeah.
And whenever you're out playing original music, at least once a week, that's busy. Yeah. That's good stuff, man.
Definitely busy.
Absolutely. Now, where can people? We know that we don't have an absolute release date for the live album yet, but where can people go to find the music? Where can they go to buy the music? Give us your spiel to the camera over here.
And so we have our music available wherever people listen to music, really. I mean, if you listen to iTunes or Spotify or whatever that is, it's on there. However, our website, mysteryloves.com, is the way to get all of our music for free, because we're big believers in just having people listen to our music.
Beautiful.
And so usually when we have an album come out, for the first month or so, you can buy it through our website for usually something very affordable. But generally everything goes to just a name your price type of thing very quickly. And so if you go to mysteryloves.com right now, you can click on the music tab or visit our Bandcamp page, and you can download our full library.
And what is the Bandcamp page?
mysterylovescompany.bandcamp.com.
Fantastic.
No slashes.
I knew there was a reason we brought this.
Love it.
I'm useful. There's a link on our website.
Okay.
So you can,
All right.
mysteryloves.com.
Well, and I personally love the concept that you give it away. That's what I've always done with my music. That's what I did with my band Shakuhachi Jones. It's the fact of, hey man, it worked for the Grateful Dead. Feel free to bring your recorder, plug in, get your own copy, take it home, share it with your friends, do whatever.
Yeah, and as musicians, we're always thinking about this line that there's a huge value to what we do, and we try not to sort of degrade that value for us and for others. And it's something that we always have to be very aware of as musicians. But at the same time, there's sort of the reality of this music industry and where we are, and the fact that people just have access to free music all over the place.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't just be the bad music.
Yeah.
And so we have to fight that battle too and figure out ways and be creative into figuring out ways that music can be monetized in other.
Well, and I mean, I don't know. Like I said, a lot of this podcast is about passions, following your passions, doing what you're supposed to be doing in life. And when you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, the cards will align and money will come to you.
Right.
Like it will happen.
Right.
You know, and absolutely the philosophy that you guys have with writing your music, performing your music, even giving your music away like that totally follows that arc. And follows that line of you're doing this because you're passionate about it, not because you're the band down the hall that, you know, hey, if you don't make it in 6 months, man, I'm out of here.
Right. Which
You know, I'm tired of this.
I didn't get discovered.
Well, yeah. You know, and I mean, I recently had the discussion with an engineer friend of mine who called me up actually and was like, hey, man, I haven't called you in like 3 months and you've been calling me like once a week. And I just want you to know I just quit my job. And I'm like, that's awesome. I love it. And he's like, seriously? I'm like, I've been trying to tell you to quit your job so I can get you jobs engineering, dude. Like, sincerely, I can get you jobs engineering. You just can't do it while you're turning a wrench being miserable.
Right.
Because whenever you go to talk to people, it's very evident that you're miserable with your life.
Right.
And like, nobody wants to hire the dude to be out in front of their client that is just frowning and miserable in your life.
Sure.
Like, you got to be happy. You got to enjoy what you're doing. You got to be
out.
passionate about it.
Or do drugs.
And when you do that, one of the two. With the money comes the drugs. Let's
not put the cart before the horse.
No, that's right.
And with the drugs go the money.
And with the drugs come asking for Google, hey, do you have some money? Because I spent all mine.
That happened recently.
Love you, Kanye.
Yeah.
On that note, everybody, talking about giving things away, I can't even tell you what it means to have these guys finally in the studio. I've talked to Jeremy about getting them in Houston whenever I'm there, and I'm always there so sporadically and so shortly that it's so hard to arrange it. I can't express to you what it means to have you guys here on such short notice, on such a short schedule. I cannot wait to go out to Cherrywood tomorrow, check out the show, see everything. We're going to get some B-roll. Let everybody see what y'all do, that kind of stuff. And
unfortunately, Alana won't be there tomorrow.
Oh, man.
Because I have a day job.
A Sunday day job?
Yeah. I work for Microsoft.
Okay. Oh,
Sunday
understandable.
Sunday is a day.
Sunday is a day.
Turns out.
It ends in day, so that means you need to work sometime.
We will, however, have another drummer who is not a regular drummer. In as a part of the lineup, so you'll get to see exactly what we're talking about.
I love it. I love it. And that's what I'm all about. And speaking of things that we're all about, speaking of things for free, everybody, please, 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 while you're online checking out the awesome music of Mystery Loves Company, please make sure to stop on by the Talking Sound Show. TalkingSoundShow.com is the website. There you can find all of the interviews with artists, directors, engineers, as well as all of the industry news from major manufacturers like Avid, Sony Technologies, Rupert Neve Designs, MXL Audio, just to name a few. In addition to that, we also have the instructional episodes. We also have the AV directory for all of you AV technicians out there looking for jobs across the country. We slowly have information from many people looking for AV people across the country. So we're building that map larger so that wherever you go, you can find a job. And while you're there, please feel free to visit our Patreon page. It's because of people like you who donate to us that we are allowed to upgrade to HD, that we're allowed to buy all the nice toys for the studio, that we're allowed to buy premium packages for the podcast like we just did on SoundCloud, stuff like that, to be able to host numerous episodes instead of just 3 hours of audio. So thank you so much for those of you who have given to Patreon. Thank you so much for those of you who do tune in regularly. And please, if you're in town, either in Houston or Austin, check these guys out. Check them out online.
Please do.
Listen to their music. We're going to go out with a little of their music right now. This, once again, is Mystery Loves Company. This is the Talking Sound Show. And until next time, everybody, keep reaching for 11. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
talking sound.